$1 million loads.
They don't want to open it in front of you. They don't want you to see what's in there.
So you're only allowed to stop at certain places only after, like, we drive 5 hours, and then you're designated to these fuel stops or these terminals, or because they are high secure.
Why do you want to know like where I'm at every hour? And you want me to check in? And if I stop, you want to know? It just, it makes you wonder, right?
It's so much fun. Every day is a new adventure. And when you look at them from the beginning days and how much they learn at the very end, it makes you so proud of what you do.
If you're thinking about a career in the trades and you want to know what employers actually look for, what the work is really like, and what nobody tells you before you get started, you're in the right place. Built in the Midwest features conversations that'll help you figure out if this path is for you.
Well, good morning, Penny.
Good morning.
Thanks for being on the Built in the Midwest podcast today.
Sure.
As somebody that I've known for several years now, and someone that I've got the pleasure of working with, I really thought everyone would love to hear your story. And it's something. Just in my truck last class, there was a couple of females, and in today's day and age, there's still this stigma out there how this is a man's job, and it's something that I want to be able to empower females out there that are interested in the trades and interested in trucking. Tell me about your story, kind of going back from when you realized you wanted to get a CDL and that process to eventually being over the road.
Yeah, so I was working CNA at Pinecrest, and my husband was in the trucking for a year, and he said, why don't you take a ride with me, because I had a vacation coming up. So I said, sure, why not? And I went out with him over the road for a week, and I think at the time he was doing 11 states. And I thought, you're getting paid to do this. Here I'm slaving, working very hard.
Oh my God, and CNAs are tough. I know a few people that, I should say, were CNAs. It's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of a burnout job. That's something that's hard. It seems like I don't see a lot of them doing it as a career.
Yeah, physically it was really hard on someone, but mentally it was amazing. Working with old people is great. I do miss that all the time. But to get back to it, I'm over the road with them, and I thought, this could be fun. This could be something I could do. And I got home and I was thinking, well, how do I start? And I started doing research, and you guys came up. I thought, checked it out. You got good reviews, good recommendations. And I had that amount of money in the bank, so I said, why not? I'll give it a try. It was one of the best things I have ever done. I had more fun with you guys. And when I started, I did not know a dang thing about trucking. Nothing. Just a little bit with my husband. And I thought, am I going to do this? I was the only girl in class, so I was kind of scared. I don't want to look stupid in front of all these guys. So I worked really hard and got through it, and it was a lot of fun. You guys made it easy. So when I got hired with my husband as a team, I ended up at the place, and as a family-oriented trucking place, which was a great place, they thought I was an implant because you guys trained me so well that they thought someone stuck me in there.
Like there's no way you just came out of school,
right?
Much ready to go.
And my husband had won an award, and he got a coat, and only trainers got this coat. Well, I wore the coat, and you guys taught me up to back up so well that they thought I was implanted to check on their trainers.
No, to check on their trainers.
Yeah, they did.
You were that good. So not only did you excel, but you kind of blew them out of the water.
Oh, I was the only one that did slow maneuvers
Oh,
correctly without it hitting anything.
yeah.
Because the way you guys out straight, turn late, how you turn here, how you turn there. You were one of my trainers. Mac was one of my trainers. It was great.
Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize, that they think, okay, truck driving school, I'm just getting a CDL. And I think there's so much more to that. And honestly, it's hard to articulate everything that an individual learns. And when you're talking about backing, because we do a lot of backing. I mean, we spend a lot of time backing through cones, but why is that so important in your own experience? Why was that so important to actually being successful on the road?
Because I didn't want to hit anything.
Yeah.
You have to. And you're in tight situations. There's a place in Chicago I used to pick up, and I drove 4 p.m. to 4 a.m., so I drove in the dark. And I would have to pull in, go around, and then I only had so many feet. And then I had to back up to this trailer, which you only had like 2 inches. Not even 2 inches. And then there a brick wall. So I had to kind of get in there, and you only have
tiny little space.
You can't, in order to get under to do your landing gear, you had to go under the trailer.
Oh, jeez.
It's so tight. And that was just one of the places. We'd have to back up over the road, come down. My first backup was a blind side.
Oh, perfect.
Down a hill, through all these cars and trailers, in the dark.
Yes. It sounds like the perfect storm to me.
Oh, it was.
But that's why it's important, where, and I know you've heard some students say, well, can we, why do we have to back up so much? Why do we have to do all these different backing exercises? And it's like, we know something that they don't know, that in real life, it's your accidents aren't going to happen going straight down the road. That's not where accidents happen. They happen in manufacturing plants and yards that are really tight docks where you got a wall right there, and understanding what you're looking at in the mirrors. And so many people nowadays, they're so important, and to know what you're looking at, what you're looking for. And I think, backing up as much as we do between cones, where cones are kind of hard to see in a mirror. So it really forces you to really look and pay attention a lot more than you would normally do it. And I think that's super, super important. The other thing you mentioned is the, having fun and the experience in the course. Also something that's hard to talk about, right? Because people think, oh, it's truck driving school. You go there to get your CDL. Why was the experience, so important to you with how you remembered the course?
Why was it important?
Yeah, like how was that experience? How did that experience impact you? Because it wasn't just about getting a CDL.
No, it was about proving, because I'm a girl, that I could do it. And you guys took us places. We went on adventures every day. It was a new thing, but we were still learning the basics, the safeties, how to control it, the skid pad.
Yeah.
Too bad we didn't
I
still
know.
have that, but
that was a lot of fun.
I was very blessed to have that experience and knowledge.
Now, did you get to go on some long trips as well to Marquette?
We went to Marquette. We did the roundabouts. We did. We went to Mackinac Bridge.
Oh, you went to the Mackinac Bridge. Okay, yeah. So we don't. I like to do it more, but it's just hard to fit in the schedule nowadays with everything that we have covered.
And it's so far.
Yeah, it is. It is, but it's something that with a lot of students that we get, I'm always surprised by. There's always quite a few of them that have never been across the Mackinac Bridge, and that was the world's largest suspension bridge for a long time. Mm-hmm. It is a pretty immaculate bridge, to be able to check out, and there's a lot of truck specific rules and regs on that bridge. But that's something that I think is really important, and is that good quality training where you're not going on the same route every time. Talk about that and why that's important, for new students to be hitting different cities and different roads and different highways, and how that makes you a better driver.
It does. I mean, granted that the Mackinac Bridge was a nice long trip. Everybody got to take an hour or so driving, and to me, it's more fun to go up to Gwyn, and you got the mountains and the nice curvies. And,
Yeah.
you get more time to downshift, upshift, downshift, upshift, and that's what you really want. I mean, yeah, it's great to drive 55 for an hour, but a couple times, yeah. But then I wanna see them be able to go down fast, go up fast, go down fast,
Yep.
and be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think all those little trips and the places we go, there's learning objectives that are weaved into the program where, yeah, you're going up and down Marquette Mountain. You're going to be doing some shifting. I like to have them practice. All right, let's turn on our Jake brake and get a feel of what that feels like going down the road. And then up in Marquette, you have a lot of hill starts. It's almost anywhere you stop at, you got a hill start
Not roll
kicking
back.
off, and yeah, to not roll back, and how to kind of ride that clutch and everything else. So kind of going back to, kind of getting on the road, what challenges did you face while you're on the road? Kind of looking back.
When I first got on the road, my very first night, I was in the mountains, and I didn't ever really drive in the mountains.
No.
So I'm glad that you guys took the time to teach a little bit of it, and then my company would teach what speed you want to be at, what gear that is down and through there. So it was a little safety. There's a lot more safety in the mountains.
Well, yeah, and the mountains are, and we've seen some really bad accidents in the mountains. So from your experience, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Why have we seen some really bad accidents in the mountains?
Speed,
Just going too fast.
going too fast for your load.
Yep.
There's suggested speed limits for weight of your truck. If you don't follow that, a lot of people don't follow it. And they speed up, and then they're pushing on their brakes, and they're stabbing their brakes, and then their brakes get stuck, and then they cause fires, and then they lose their brakes. And some mountains have only 1 or 2 escape ramps, and some of them have it on the other side of the road. And you're not allowed on the other side of the road.
No.
So in order to get to that escape ramp, you have to, do a lot of defensive driving. But
Absolutely.
mostly it's speed.
Yeah. Just going too fast. And I think for me, I know the first few times going through the mountains was one of the scariest in trucking that I've ever had, because these mountains are so big. And if people have never been to, we don't have mountains in the Midwest. We really don't. And the mountains I'm talking about are like the Rocky Mountains, the Smoky Mountains, the Appalachian Mountains. Those are some mountains. When you have a 40-mile grade going
California,
down,
I-80.
Yep, California. And I'm thinking of coming out of the Eisenhower Tunnel in Colorado. That's insane. But I think it's really important, for new drivers to kind of understand what that process is to go down a mountain. So for people out there that have that maybe have a CDL and have driven but haven't driven through the mountains, what would your advice be?
Make sure you're in the speed that you want to stay in before you get over the top.
Yep.
Or going up.
Yep.
Or when you're coming out of a tunnel, there is a big, huge wind push. As soon as you come out of that tunnel, it hits you. So always drive with your both hands on the wheel, and a good grip, because the wind can hit you at any moment. And
you got a big parachute back there. So that wind hits you, it's going to move that truck. And if you're not in control, you can end up losing control.
You can lose control fast.
And that's important. I know something we teach as you know is all right, you're in the mountains, look for those advisory speed limit signs. Look for those specific signs that apply to trucks that say, all right, 75 to 80,000 pounds, we want to be at 25 miles an hour. And if you're at that, which a lot of times you are loaded going through the mountains, that's where you want to be. And I think what's really hard for a lot of people, and it was hard for me, is I'm doing 25 miles an hour and cars are passing me because it's 6 lanes. Cars are passing me doing 65 miles an hour and I feel like I'm standing still, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to recognize that you can't let other drivers influence how you drive. Because those other cars, I mean, guess what? They're not 80,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. And if they want to drive, that's fine. All right. But you got to take care of you. And I think that's where some of those really bad, where people have glazed their brakes and faded them. That's where that's happened, is because they're just going down mountains too fast and not being in a low enough gear, not having their Jake brake on, and not understanding the snubbing brake pedal method. And I think those are big things. And it's relatively simple. Like, after that, all my time through the mountains, aesthetically, I don't think there's anything more beautiful in the country. Would you agree?
There's a lot of beautiful.
No, there is. There is. But the mountains, in my mind, they were almost unbelievable, because I didn't know there was anything that big in my life where like you just look up and it's like the mountains just keep going and going and going. And you see snow on the tops of mountains in the, summertime. And it's like, what? Like that's.
Yeah, it's summertime. So even when you go through there at night, in the summertime, it can snow.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You always have to be ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the prettiest pictures I've taken is I was on top of a mountain, looking at a tip of a mountain. And I have clouds down below me. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah. No,
it's so pretty.
And I always thought that was interesting, heading east to west, and how like you're in a desert a lot, and then you get to the other side of a mountain and it's like a luscious forest, really thick. And I remember asking somebody, why is that? And they said, well, the clouds can't go over top of the mountain. So all the rain just goes on one side of the mountain. And so you have, like a beautiful, luscious forest, or a jungle if you're in those areas. And on the other side, it's a desert. So
yeah.
I'm like, it's you have, the extremes on either side of the mountain, which is super interesting. What was your most fun thing about being on the road? What did you enjoy most about it?
Waking up every day not knowing where you're going to go. It's like a box of chocolate.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get. That was so exciting to me, to be able to be in California and pick up a load and go to Pennsylvania or Florida, I just loved it.
So every day is a new thing,
a new adventure,
and a new adventure.
Yeah. Like one time we picked up, I think I was in California, and we dropped it in Oregon and Portland, and we got another load, and we went to Washington, and we got to go to Nintendo. It was a high security load. But as we're going down Zelda Way, because they had their little streets.
Oh, yeah.
After them, a massive herd of reindeer, just beautiful reindeer, come trotting across right in front of me. Just gorgeous.
Just amazing. Now, where was that at?
What was that town? So it's like a very edge of Washington, in the middle up.
Okay. I'll be darned. Mm-hmm. I remember going through like Yellowstone. Yellowstone, and seeing like the grizzly bears and all the bison, and I didn't realize how big bison were.
Ooh, they're huge.
They are gigantic. I mean, they're like a semi-truck by themselves, with legs.
There's a place in South Dakota where I think it's Teddy Roosevelt, the president, has a rest area, and trucks are allowed in there, and they have trails, and you can see the Badlands, and they have bison and buffalo everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can walk down the trail and you can see them. It's really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's something that people that haven't been on the road, they, you got to travel and you got to check out like the beautiful country that we live in. And, talking about the Badlands, I had no idea what the Badlands were. And
I thought they were bad.
And yeah, no, exactly. I'm like, what does that mean? The Badlands? Like, what am I supposed to look for? And then you go there and I'm like, wow, like the Dakotas and everything. And it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's really pretty. And then you see the animal life and it's amazing that I think there's some people that don't even know what a bison is, or that there's actual, reindeer that are out there, or wild horses, wild horses. And a lot of people, I've seen them. It's awesome.
I've seen them in the middle of the night. I saw this sign. It had a horse on it. I'm like, what is that? And then all of a sudden, this whole herd comes in front of me. It was just, and a little baby at the end.
Yeah. But it's those experiences that it's like, unless you get to do it and experience it, you don't appreciate it. And I talk to a lot of students that have never seen the mountains. And I think, you ever been to a mountain? And they say, well, I've been to Marquette, Marquette Mountain. And I was like, that's not a mountain. That's not a mountain. That's a hill, right?
It's a hill of trees.
Exactly. Like, to really appreciate it, you got to be there and you got to experience it. And, as well as like the Pacific Coast, right? And in California. And one of the routes I got to go to Northern California and see, oh my God, Northern California is amazing. And you got to see the redwoods. You got to see the redwoods there?
Oh,
yeah.
They're massive.
Oh, they're huge, like big enough that you could drive a car through, right? And there are some places that they have carved out the road so you can drive a car through. But I didn't know trees existed that were that big before.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Even the bark is massive.
Oh, yeah.
Thick and
the bark is so thick in itself. Could be a tree around here in the Midwest. Like we don't have trees that big, even remotely that big around here. So, it's stuff like that that I think people don't recognize, that with this industry, you get the opportunity to literally see the country and see all the different beautiful places that this country has to offer. What was your favorite place that you got to go to?
Oh my God! So the first 11 months, my husband and I drove. We saw all the states except Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and that's still on my bucket list.
Yeah,
because we drove so much. I even went to Rhode Island. I picked up Walmart at a little Rhode Island.
A little Rhode Island. No, I love it.
So the upstate New York is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like here. Washington is absolutely beautiful with the big trees and the mountain. And Oregon, you can still see the Oregon trails in one of the rest areas from the wagon wheels.
Really?
Yeah. It's just...
No way. Okay, I haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. And then half of Oregon is trees and mountains, and it's gorgeous. And then the other half, it opens up to like you're in Ireland.
Yeah, it's more of like a
rolling
desert,
green.
If I remember right, or
well, at the right time.
At the right time, yeah, because you have the mountains there, and I'm thinking of what's the one big one right there, and I remember
Rainier?
I will there might be Mount Hood.
Hood,
yeah, and I'll never forget that mountain because it was raining down at the bottom, and as I climbed down, the rain turned to like a sleet, which turned to a freezing rain, which turned to like a wet snow. And then at the top was the biggest snowflakes I've ever seen.
Really?
Yes. It was
That's
just
so
huge.
cool.
And then it stayed like that for a while. And then as I come down the other side of the mountain, literally the same thing. I didn't know there were so many different states of water. You know what I mean? You think it's like it's just snow and water. No, exactly. But then you had like the big snow and then like the wet snow and then more like the sleet and then like a freezing rain and then the rain. And then, I was like, wow, like you got to see it all going up and coming back down. And
And it's very slow moving.
Oh,
If you're in the semi, you have to go.
oh yeah, yeah. I was crawling, so I got to see everything, which was just amazing. But it's those things that I think a lot of people appreciate about trucking once they're into it. Like, wow, like there's all these cool things and cool experiences.
And pull over. And,
oh yeah, well
you work for a company. The company we worked for had facilities all over the U.S. where we could park there and say, hey, we want a week vacation. You have a rental program, you get in a car and you can see a place for a week. Or they had company cars.
Absolutely. I've known a few guys that have done that in different places. The one I talked to him here a little while back, but he did it in Vegas. He had a load out to Vegas and he's like, oh, I want to take a week in Vegas and go to the Hoover Dam and get all the sightseeing in, go on the Strip. And he's like, as opposed to having to fly out there and everything, he's like, I got paid to do it. I got paid
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I got to see the Raiders Stadium being built.
Oh, yes.
It's beautiful. Because we go through there a lot.
Yeah. And it's gorgeous.
Come off the one where there's a mountain and at night, it's just, you see the whole Vegas. Is just gorgeous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and people have never been to Vegas. I don't think they really appreciate how big it is and the buildings there. I mean, it's not a small city. It's a massive city, and what they've made there, and I mean, it draws people in from all over the world. I mean, you go there and you see every you go to the MGM Grand or Caesar's Palace, you'll see every country. There'd be people from Germany and Finland and Switzerland and China and Japan. It's just every country all over the place. Right. And the Hawaiians. I love the Hawaiians. All right. There was one I was talking to last time we were out there and I'm BSing with them and I'm like, what brings you to Vegas? He's like, well, where do you think Hawaiian people vacation? When Hawaiians vacation, they go to Vegas. That's what he said. So
everything's right there.
Because I mean, they live on an island.
Of life.
Exactly. They live on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You got to think, where does a local Hawaiian vacation? They go to Vegas.
They go to Vegas. Everything's there. It's just gorgeous.
Oh, it certainly is. It certainly is. So it's one of those things that, you've got, a lot of time on in the OTR world. Now, what brought you back to wanting to be more local?
My husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just didn't want to go out anymore. He wanted to be home. And then we got a dog, and the dog we have, you're not allowed to have that one breed out there, which she's a big baby.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, well, if I had to do anything, because I was working, I went back in the healthcare field and was doing mentally challenged homes. And I thought, well, what, out of all the jobs I've had so many jobs throughout my life, where was it the greatest? One of the greatest. And I came back to you guys. I thought, they don't have a female instructor. And I've been coast to coast over and over and over and over. And over. Years.
That's how it goes. You're like a pinball bouncing around the United States.
It was amazing. And I thought, I remember how I sat there and I felt being the only girl in class. And I thought, well, maybe if I could give a little instruction to some of the new females that want to come through, or give them a little advice, or just to be there. I thought, well, I'm going to go there and beg for a job.
Yeah. Well, Penny, you are amazing, and the way you connect with people, and it is something I talked to Zach about this, and he gets calls regularly, like from females, like, hey, is there a female instructor? Or, it's like, and yes, the school has one now. Her name's Penny. She's amazing. But I think there is a kind of connection that's automatically there just to have that, and how you encourage students, and how you're there for students, and how you're kind of you're giving to the students kind of the same thing that you got when you came to the course, that kind of phenomenal experience. It's not just about getting a CDL. It's so much more.
So much more.
And
you
I
guys
think
do a wonderful job.
Well, you do a wonderful job,
Yeah.
Penny. No.
It's so much fun. Every day is a new adventure. And when you look at them from the beginning days and how much they learn at the very end, it makes you so proud of what you do. So proud to see these people go and succeed and how you help that.
Absolutely.
It's a great thing.
No, I think
It's a great
it is there's an intrinsic reward there that I felt for years, where it's like you're really helping people, right? You're really helping people get them back on their feet or get into a great career. Somebody asked me the other day, well, who comes through the school? Like, what is that? Who are they? And I'm like, I couldn't give you one demographic. I mean, it's literally 18 to 80, men, women, everybody, from all over the place. I think the school has trained from literally all 50 states over the last 30 years, and a little bit of everybody. And there'll be people right out of the military coming through the school. There'll be people right out of prison coming through the school, or right out of high school coming through the school. Or there'll be somebody I'll never forget. Cliff, super nice guy, and he was a chef for like 30 years. You remember? Yes,
in that class.
He was in your class, yes, and because he made the barbecue ribs. So if he's listening, Cliff, I want some more of your barbecue ribs.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was actually chef out in Vegas, and he had done that for 25, 30 years. And he just wanted something different and just wanted a career change. And so, that is something we see a lot, is people that are looking for a career change, to the same thing for so many years and just looking for something different. I mean, it literally is a little bit of everybody, and the other thing is being able to work with all these different kinds of people, as well as people with learning disabilities. I had no idea how many people out there have learning disabilities and have dyslexia and ADD and ADHD, and they struggled, and a lot of them have never even graduated high school. And being able to see them succeed in this industry, get great jobs, and being able to provide for themselves, like, I think is super exciting. And then, guys like Hunter, that I'm going to, he's a great guy. He's not going to mind me, showing a little spotlight on him. But he was completely deaf, and he really wanted to be in this industry, completely deaf. And so, we'd communicate with lights and on our phones, and the talk to speech and everything. And I tell you what, he was a joy to have. And this was a huge dream of his. And so being able to be that catalyst so that he can achieve one of his goals and dreams, I mean, it's exciting. Yeah, it really is. So it's
many aspects of life can come through and succeed. And
absolutely. Well, and I mean, and there's a couple guys in this class that, in the beginning, like, okay, what are you interested in doing? And they're like, I really don't plan on driving, don't plan on doing anything in this industry, but they're coming through just to have it in their back pocket, because they want a backup plan, that they have a wife or husband and kids, and they have families that they need to provide for. And they said, hey, if something does go awry, or maybe I want to do something different later on, they said, you know what? I got my CDL in my back pocket. And I think there is a peace of mind to, you have a CDL in your back pocket. You always have a job, a good job for that matter.
Anywhere.
And you always have a way to provide, and you have a job anywhere. Your CDL, you can go to California and get a job out there. You can go to Florida, get a job down there, to Texas. If you want to live in the frozen tundra, you get a job here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There's that's why we love it here. Yes. Speaking of, you should see Penny in the wintertime.
Oh my
Maybe
God.
RJ can pull a picture of Penny. She's just she's got the Elmer Fudd hat on, 19 layers. All right.
I was warm.
Yes, you were cozy, right? But that's to train up here. That's what we need, right?
Yeah,
I have the same. Everyone makes fun of my hat, Penny, and I don't care, because it keeps me warm.
It keeps me warm.
Exactly.
You crawl under the trucks. You do your job.
Yeah.
You have to check everything out. Like, When we went to North Dakota, it was negative 27 degrees. You have to be prepared. You have to dress. It's brutal.
Absolutely.
It can be very brutal. Like the tunnel comes right through there, the wind, and
guess what? It's tough. It's tough, and that's the beauty of trucking. Is 1 week you could be sunny and 95 and in California or Florida, and it's like, wow, this is nice. And then the next week you're in snow-covered mountains and Minnesota with 40-mile-an-hour winds and negative 25 wind chill and
you're back to Florida
and everything in between. Yeah, it's just that's the lifestyle, and so
you have all that in there, and you just never know. And you really, if you do team drive, you really have to like the person, Otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you see now? I don't see a lot of people team driving anymore.
No,
not a lot. Do you see? Is it still pretty popular?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Companies love team drives.
Yes, but they don't force you to team drive, do they?
No.
No. Okay.
No, it's a choice.
Yeah. Because back in the day, that used to be more common, where companies, okay, yeah, you're starting off, we're going to put you with Joe Schmo and you're going to team drive. Oh. Yeah. So, and they kind of went away from that, but so now it's more people that want to do it. Absolutely. Those opportunities are there, but most of them aren't. I don't know any that are forcing you to do that nowadays, like you saw maybe back then. So yeah, it's interesting.
Solo would be good too, though.
Oh yeah.
They say it gets lonely, but it doesn't have to be lonely. You can socialize when you go into the truck stops. They have lounge rooms. They have all kinds of things. They have FaceTime on your phones. You can contact your families. And
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be lonely.
No, it really doesn't. Well, and so with that, what would your advice be to somebody that's looking at getting a CDL, looking at going through truck driving school, and are thinking about, OTR, regional, local, looking at the different things? What would be your advice to that person?
Depends on how their home life looks. Your kids could be young. You want regional or around town.
Sure.
Then you can still have your family life. If your kids are grown and it's just your wife there, have her get her CDL. Or you want some space.
Yes.
Then you go out for a couple weeks, come home.
Yeah.
So they also have programs, like we did it too, 21 and 21. We'd go out 21 days, come 29 days. Excuse me. And then repeat, or 28 and 7, or I think the longest we stayed out was 53.
53 days. Okay, so you were out there for over 6 weeks. Yeah, that's
or even longer. Because we went out October 2nd, and we stayed till the 23rd of December.
Wow.
But we got bonuses,
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because especially leading up to Christmas, there's a lot of, I know freight picks up big time.
Freight picks up because everybody's online, everybody's buying. So you can run, you run.
And you can stay busy the whole time.
Stay busy. And you're in different states, and took us 2.5 days to go coast to coast.
Wow. So, and you were teaming. You were teaming. So for people that don't understand what teaming is, talk about that, if you will.
So some people, you get a 10-hour or 11-hour drive time. You can do that, and then you can switch, and then you have the 3 hours on duty time, 14 hours. But some companies want you to switch. We worked for a company that we kept the same schedule, so then we didn't have to drive different hours of the day, because then your fatigue plays in. I worked 4 p.m. to 4 a.m., and then my husband worked 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then we would do a rolling reset. So we'd drive all week. We'd get 70 hours. We'd just drive. And then when he got done at 4 p.m. on Friday. He didn't drive until 4 a.m. on Sunday. So the truck only sat for 24 hours.
Now, would you both do a reset at that time? Or would you? Okay,
It's
gotcha.
a rolling reset. So when I got off at 4 a.m. on Saturday, I didn't drive until 4 p.m. on Sunday.
Yep.
So then we'd go again.
Yep. So
Get our
you get your
34
34-hour reset set in, and you're good. Now, did you run? Did you run or recap?
Sometimes
If you had the hours,
if I had to, I would run a recap. But you really want to start on a 70.
yeah.
Which would
Then
be
and if you're
140.
running a lot, yeah, you're gonna eat that up. You're gonna
We'd
eat
eat it
that.
up
Yeah,
fast.
yeah. It doesn't
We'd eat up 140 hours fast.
pretty quick. Wow. So, how many miles would you, as a team driver, put on as a team?
3,000, 6,000 a week.
Is that 6,000 a week? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, was that over 300,000 miles
Probably.
a year?
Probably. I don't know.
That's a lot. That's a lot of miles.
Fast
That's
at math. That's not my subject.
That's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of
That's a lot
miles.
of miles, to say the least. Did you have a product that you preferred hauling? Because I imagine that was a lot of dry van.
We were the first reefers for the company.
Really?
Yeah, we did pharmaceuticals. So they would buy and sell pharmacies, and then you'd have to ship them right away because they're
Temperature controlled and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So you would
depends.
bounce. Yeah. So all that stuff had to be cooled down. And
Yeah, and then we done food. We did high security loads, lots of those.
oh yeah,
$1 million loads.
those are fun. Were they electronics or
Some.
some?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say what the products were.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
So we did Nintendo loads. Those are high security. Coach, purses, Yetis.
Yetis are expensive
Yeah,
too.
Yetis. Cigarettes,
Oh yeah, cigarette tobacco.
tobacco.
Yeah, super expensive loads. And that
Samsung.
Samsung, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We did.
They had those special metal seals on the back of the trailers, and
Oh yeah, locks. We had high security locks.
I
too.
see. Yeah,
They some of them really tape them up, really do them, and then high security locks. And they designate your trail, so you're only allowed to stop at certain places only after, like we drive 5 hours or straight. You can't stop, and then you're designated to these fuel stops or these terminals, or because they are high security.
yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes
And I imagine
we have-
they wanted to know where that trailer was too. That the trailer tracking.
Yeah, we have
on it.
tracking.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we had people follow us for extra security. And then you meet at a certain place, and then you pick your security up, and then you go deliver it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've heard of like even stuff where, where like the U.S. Treasury will ship money in dry van trailers, and they'll hide it in a a load, so it's just kind of inconspicuous. You know what I mean? And that's more common, I think, people think. And there's a a few cars behind you that just keeps an eye on that load all the way there.
Mm-hmm. They follow.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you get on the road and you start hauling different things. You never know what you might encounter, and then there's stuff like that where you got $1 million loads. It's like that's
You have to be on time. That's where your trip planning is so important, because you can't be an hour early. You can't be an hour late. You have to be right on time, because that load is timed, and the people are there to pick it up or whatever. It has to be. You can't stop.
no.
Like, you're driving and you're in that area, you have to keep driving. And then,
Yeah,
you have
and
your
then
time.
pull on in at your time. They're
At your
very
time.
and they're very strict.
Very
Very
strict.
strict about that. Yeah. And,
It could be an all black building
yeah.
and
Well, yeah,
fences and
exactly. And then you get there and here's my bill of lading, Swiss cheese.
you're the only one there.
Yeah. Yeah. But they typically unload you pretty quick when you got loads like that. They don't mess around.
Or they take your trailer.
Yep. Yeah.
You get a different trailer.
Because they don't want to open in front of you. They don't want you to see what's in there. And so that always keeps it interesting. What's that place? This was a long time ago, but it was Missouri, maybe, that delivered inside of a mountain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go there.
I tell you what, it was
Very
insane. Very tight, and the docks are in the mountain, and it's very secluded, and they don't really tell you what it is that's really in your trailer because they close the doors and they put a big lock on it, and you're like, what am I hauling? And on the bill of lading,
it doesn't say much.
No, it says magazines or Swiss
all
cheese and all kinds of freight. Yep, general freight I think was my favorite. What does that mean? You know what I mean? But why do you want to know like where I'm at every hour? And you want me to check in? And if I stop, you want to know. It just it makes you wonder, right? But that's a part of trucking that I think is a lot of fun, and that's what you really enjoyed is that adventure where you didn't know.
There's this one place I stopped at, it's Lenexa, Kansas, and it's a FedEx. I'm driving through there, and there's this deer. It just keeps following me. And I'm thinking, what in the world? So I started throwing out peanut butter and M&Ms. They stop and eat it. I go to drop my trailer off. He comes up to me. Right up to me. And I'm like, this thing is just adorable. And I pick him, switch my trailers, and I go to leave, and his name's Bucky. They kept him because he was hurt when he was a baby, so he lives in the FedEx place.
No.
Yeah,
it's just a friendly, great big buck. Friendly deer.
Buck follows you everywhere. So it's like all kinds of exciting things.
Yeah. That reminds me of the paper mill here in town. And the deer there are just not afraid of you. Just monster bucks just roaming around right next to the road and stuff. And I'm like, man, I sit out in the woods a long time trying to get one of those puppies. and here it is right there, just hanging out, eating some grass in the ditch. I'm like, unbelievable. Yeah.
I've fed foxes. They came right up to you. Coyotes. California has tons of coyotes.
That are that friendly?
Oh, yeah. They come right up to you.
No, come on. No.
Yeah, I got videos. Pictures.
Talking about safety, Penny, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a female, is there any other advice, when it comes to safety on how you managed that and how you were able to things that you did to make sure you were safe on the road?
You can carry pepper spray on your keys. I would recommend that. Always walk in an open area, well lit area. If you're a female, if you're gonna park by the lights, the street lights. I always did that. Or if I stopped at rest areas and stuff that I didn't know, or if they didn't have cameras, I would park by lights, street lights, or
so everything was lit up and
everything
absolutely
was lit.
Yeah.
I didn't really talk to strangers that much.
Stranger danger. Yeah. So I'm trying to teach my kids,
You can just tell, the people. But,
yeah. So, and I think that's important because if somebody's from like us, from the Midwest and maybe not always having eyes in the back of our head, but you get out there, you got to be more careful and you have to be more attentive to what's going on and don't put yourself in those potentially dangerous situations, as well as like pick the right truck stops, right? That's huge as well. Like, you get into bigger cities, that truck stop better have a fence around it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, you can get stolen.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
You park on the wrong off ramp in some places, you wake up and your load's gone.
Exactly. So
you always park up next to a pole or a building or another truck, or keep your area safe. Yeah, I always knew my surroundings, knew my exits, knew my enters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Penny, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I tell you what, it's this has been great. And I think it's exciting to be able to empower other females that are interested in this trade, that wants more information, and talking about somebody that went through the school, got a CDL, drove on the road, and now is one of the certified instructors here at the school. I think it's just, I love your story, and I think it's exciting, and I think it really empowers other women and females that are thinking about this trade, and tells them that hey, it's a viable career option.
It's a beautiful career.
Yeah,
And women can do it.
absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely,
Go out there and be safe and strive for better.
absolutely.